What I say about is enough, and what the speaker and the chairman Klein and myself are saying is, we have problem is it's a lethal leak, highly radioactive substances going into the ground, potentially going to the river. If strontium gets into our children, we know that it's a terrible, terrible health challenge for them. We've got to take action. This is a responsible thing to do. You know, I got to say, as a kid who was born and raised in the county, there were two designs for that plan originally, two locations where it might have been put. One was the southeast corner of the state of Vermont, as close to the Massachusetts and New Hampshire lines as you can get. The other one was right up here on the banks of Lake Champlain. I would ask you this question. If tritium, cobalt, cesium, and other isotopes were leaking every week into the groundwater next to Lake Champlain, would we be as silent as we have been about these leaks? I would say probably not. We spent $100 million to try and make the lake clean and clear. It's been a priority of Republicans and Democrats. We're worried about extraordinary runoff from the farms and from development and polluting that lake. Just imagine for a minute that right next to the lake, we are now going into yet another leak of cesium, tritium, cobalt, radioactive substances. Do you think that the state would be remaining so silent, so patient, so quiet? I don't think so.
Have any of you touched base with the NRC, and what have you heard from them?
Well, we haven't touched base with the NRC, but the NRC is now saying an inspector, which is big for the NRC, because in my judgment, they're a wholly owned subsidiary of the Asian nuclear power plant industry. But they're now sending an inspector to try to figure out why it is that once again, Entergy Louisiana couldn't figure out that there was a pipe leaking right next to the pipe that already leaked. Well, that sure gives you a lot of reassurance, you know, that they're going to send a special inspector in. I mean, great, bring them on. But what we're saying is we don't need an inspector to tell us we're a problem. Let's fix the problem with either underground pipes or going to a bulk system so that we know that there's no more radioactive substances leaking into the mine.
Do you acknowledge that there'd be probably no economic advantage or economic possibility of them putting the pipes up above ground for the next year and a half, 2 years?
Well, you know, we've asked for estimates of what it would cost to do this, and the numbers that we've gotten back from our expert, Ryan Gunderson, is roughly $10 million. I believe they just spent more than that refueling last week. So, you know, if you can spend $10 million refueling, could you spend a similar amount of money to ensure that radioactive substances aren't leaking into Vermonters and into Vermont? And I think that that's an economic judgment they can make, but when you look at the revenue from the plant and running it for another 2 years, if that's their choice, they just made a judgment that it was worth it to spend $10 million to refuel. Why couldn't they spend a similar amount to protect Vermonters from this ongoing environmental disaster?
I think we've seen in the past that it makes a lot more sense to take care of the problem on the front end than it does on the back end. Trying to pay for the cleanup through the decommissioning fund to try and get stuff out of the ground rather than pay for it by making sure it doesn't go into the ground. I think it's a lot cheaper to prevent it from happening in the first place than to take care of it after it does. So, from my perspective, the economics say take care of it now, don't take care of it later.
You know, that's one of the ongoing questions we should all be asking. As the speaker just said, what about the cleanup of the isotopes that are in the ground right now? And it seems to me that we're being remarkably laid back as a state about that question too. It's clear that some of the nuclear isotopes in the ground there are under existing buildings at Vermont Yankee. And therefore, Entergy has made the judgment, well, we'll clean it up later. I sure wish we had a public service department that was as diligent at protecting the public as we might wish, because we may well regret our very lackluster response to allowing those nuclear isotopes to continue to move in the ground. And then another option might have been to say, clean it up, remove it from the buildings.
Thanks.